From every strand on the line of your reel, to the rods, to the anglers, to the lures on the end of your hook, let's talk about those big bass here on Co-Angler's Corner with your hosts, Rob Welch and John Stoudinger.
Hey, how y'all are? Cajun Rob here. I'm with the legend herself, Miss Cheryl Bowden. And John's a little bit under weather tonight, so I'm going to be flying solo. So I'll miss my old partner, but wish him well. And he's all right. He's just got to recover a little bit. So, but anyway, Miss Cheryl, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, absolutely. We're looking forward to this one because, yep. Yeah, because you're kind of the history and the legacy, I guess, of the LBAA. So, but anyway, if you want to just start, how did you get into fishing and just kind of when you got into fishing and a love of fishing, if you want to go into that a little bit?
Well, like a lot of folks, I grew up in a rural area, Texas. So fishing was just one of the things that we did. It's just one of those things that we did. I mean, it was you had to learn to entertain yourself. You were expected to.
Yep.
Once you got your chores or whatever done, get outside, go away, leave mom alone. Don't come back in the house until it's time for dinner or lunch or whatever. And so we would go fishing all the time or riding our bicycles and things like that. And so I was fortunate that when I was younger, my family, we'd go down to the ponds around and we would fish. And my dad, did not have any clue our financial status whenever I was growing up because, we always watched Mutual of Omaha and all those things where you looked at these people overseas. They, all they had was whatever this was that they got in that little bowl to eat and so on. So there wasn't a lot and they never had any meat. Well, we had meat at every meal, but we had chickens all over the place. We had pigs, we had cows, we had horses. Dad he commercial fished when he wasn't at work to, would go through the neighborhoods and sell the fish that he caught. And so it was just a really cool thing to be around it all the time. And so at the time, Dad would take me with him when I was out of school down to, at the time it was Lake Texarkana, now Lake Wright-Patman.
Right.
And that's where he did the commercial fishing. And so, we would spend weeks at a time down at the lake, go out with him to run the trot lines, go out with him to run the nets and all those kinds of things. Go with him when he would go into town and sell. Mom would always got the newspaper and people would save newspaper. He'd wrap the fish in the newspapers, just all sorts of things like that. But we were expected to entertain ourselves outside. So if I wasn't fishing, I was riding horses or I was riding my bicycle or doing something outside because it was, don't be in the house messing with mom. You're not going to sit and watch TV.
Don't make a mess. Yeah, don't make a mess. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got kind of the same background they did. My granddad run trout lines and limb lines out on the Pearl River, so that's how I got my start. So we got a kind of similar background that. So we had an awesome childhood, man. If we go back and think about it, we had the best of times for sure.
It really was very, very blessed. Like I say, very blessed and
absolutely.
Fortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a couple of comments already. Mr. Troy Mims said on time. Hey, Troy, thank you, man. Hey, I missed my partner, but we get it done. I got a good co-pilot with me today. And,
I hope so.
Yeah, you did. And then good friend Rick Amato says, "Hey, Rob. Hey, Rick. Rick's a constant follower, and we really appreciate it, Rick. He's down in Florida.
I remember him from when I was on at Toledo Bend.
Yep, there you go. I think he's on more than we are on here, I think, if that's possible. But anyway, let's kind of go over. I know you and Secret kind of got together and just kind of tell you got a story about how y'all got together, got the LBA started. I know a lot of people's interested in that.
Well, it was kind of an accident, to be honest. We both fished in the Women's Bass Tour, and I met her when I was a co-angler, got to fish with her on Lake Dardanelle.
Cool.
And then just, we connected with one another off and on different places. And then when it was time for me to replace my boat, she helped me when she was working at a dealership there in Paducah area, helped me get my boat. A couple of years after I got my boat, I moved to the pro side on the Women's Bass Tour and fished 2 years on that before BASS decided that there wasn't enough interest. And so, we got the letter from BASS, I think on January 4th, said we're not going to have a tour in 2010. And, I was at the trade show at the Dallas Market Hall, because that's when we still had all the fishing and trade shows that were everywhere.
Right.
And people were asking, hey, what are y'all going to do? I'm like, I have no idea. And just by conversation, Secret and I started talking. She goes, well, we need to at least have a goodbye tournament of some sort. So we started talking to one another and trying to organize and plan. And I had my own website at that time. So we started letting people know that we would post stuff on my website.
Right.
So that we could get it out to people. And decided to have a tournament on Kentucky Lake in May. And we had several organizations and entities coming to us going, hey, we want to be a part of another tour. Would you all interested? So we started just collecting information.
Yeah.
And so we all showed up in May of 2010 on Kentucky Lake. And that was the historic time when Nashville flooded.
Yeah.
And we're out there, but the fishing is phenomenal. You're dropping that beaver otter into that brush that's submerged, and you're jerking out a 5 to 6 pounder almost every time. Fishing was phenomenal, but there was so much trash in the river coming down. You would go up river and you see all this jams of stuff, and you just have to go way off to the side to get around it. And they found that there were whole full propane tanks coming down the river.
Oh,
all sorts of stuff, parts of houses, crazy stuff. So, practice was phenomenal. We were all so looking forward to it. And we're at Moore's Resort meeting, and Secret and I are up there, and all of a sudden, my mind just went blank on the lady at Moore's that came in, and she motioned to Secret, come here. So I'm up there talking, because we've shared with the ladies, we put together a presentation, and we're sharing with them what the different entities said that they wanted to do a women's tour.
Right.
And we've shared with them every detail that we could come across from these individuals and these organizations, so that the ladies could make up their mind what they wanted.
Right.
And ultimately we were like, we just want to go have fun. We want to be able to have this is kind of a goodbye. We didn't get that. And next thing I know, the tournament director slips off with Secret, and it's like, okay. And she comes in and she goes, time out for just a second.
Yeah, you're good.
And she said, the U.S. Coast Guard, for the first time in history, has just shut down Kentucky Lake. Totally shut it down. So we're like, well, okay. So we put the ladies into groups around the big room there at Moore's and let them mull out and talk about. And we had some folks that had stepped up to some leadership positions. We had, Patty Campbell, Emily Schaeferman, Audra McQueen, a few others, that they kind of broke up into groups of, say, 8 or 10 ladies to discuss. And we gave them printouts of what every group said.
Right.
And let them start discussing the pros and the cons and what they thought, the questions they might have, and that kind of stuff. And we would answer what we could, but because obviously those people weren't there.
Right.
And in the meantime, we're going, what are we going to do? We can't fish the tournament. And so Deb Warner had a connection through Jetta Marine, I believe it was. And this part of the story I'm not exactly clear on, so I could be butchering it. Ultimately, there was a state senator. Well, he was a senator.
Yep.
He had I want to say a 50-acre pond on his private property. He let us go and fish our tournament on that 50 acres.
Oh, wow.
So we go and we put all the boats in. There were probably 12 to 15 boats, 20 boats, because some of the ladies, whenever they heard the lake was shut down, they packed up and they headed back off to wherever.
Right.
Thinking, tournament. I'm a full-time guide. I've got to go. Audra McQueen was heading back to Colorado because she's a full-time guide there for elk. Funny side note on that is she was the national elk calling champion for like 2 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how good she was at that. So anyway, we ended up going over there and fishing the tournament. But before the meeting, going back to the day of the meeting, all the groups, and all of a sudden the people who were leading up all the groups got together and were talking, and Secret and I were up front, and we're like, okay, what questions do you guys have?
Yep.
And so a spokesman for the group said, we love the information, but why don't you and Secret, you and Cheryl, why don't y'all run a tour?
Wow.
And we're like, well,
okay.
You looked at me, I looked at her, I said, well, she goes, well, I'm game if you are. I said, well, I guess I'm game if you are too. So there you go.
Yep. There you go.
Little did we know what we were getting into. It's been a great run, but it was.
No, it has.
So a funny story, when we were planning all the stuff for the May tournament, neither one of us, the unlimited plans on phone services didn't exist.
Yep.
And we were talking constantly. And we both got our cell phone bills. And we had to contact our carriers, and they were gracious enough to put us on different plans so that our $1,000 phone bills wouldn't be coming out of our pocket. I mean, again, remember that at that time, unlimited plans didn't exist.
Yep, exactly.
We were talking a lot. And
Yep.
She got her phone bill about the same time I got mine. And we called one another, and she was like, did you get your phone bill? I said, yeah, I just got mine. Did you get yours? She goes, yeah, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Because both of them were well over $500 a piece.
Oof.
But fortunately, again, we called our carriers, and they worked with us, and we're like, we had no idea, and we ended up not having to pay that, and they put us on a different plan, more expensive, but so they've well gotten their money by now.
Oh yeah.
And so we started planning for an inaugural tournament on Lake Dardanelle in September or October of 2010. And I think we had 30 or so boats at that tournament and had a great turnout. It
Cool.
worked out well. At that time, we put out our 2011 schedule. I don't remember every location, but I want to say that we started out on Sam Rayburn with 35 boats that year. Somewhere along the way, we ended up at, maybe we were at Old Hickory. Kentucky Lake ended up being the championship.
Yep.
We might have been at Gunnersville that year. But anyway, we had 5 events, one being the championship. And then we just kept working from there. And it was a very big learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
We were very fortunate that Vicki Barlow at the time was helping with registrations and things of that nature, and membership. So Secret and I were, we were both still working full time, and of course Vicki's working, but she was so gracious as to take care of that stuff in the evenings. And we worked hard on sponsors, and we were at Dardanelle again the next year because Wilkins Brothers was one of our big sponsors that first year.
Right.
She Outdoors was a sponsor, Totally Tackle, several, and, we just kept plugging along from there. And, it was consistent. And then in 2012, we knew that we were going to need some help because this was just, it was a little bit, it was a little bit much. So we tried a marketing group that lasted about 3 years, and it did not go well.
Right.
And so we took things back over after Lake Pickwick and, made some other changes. And then just over time, again, we kept plugging away. We bumped the schedule down to 4 tournaments a year because so many of our folks that were fishing were younger, and they didn't have that much vacation time.
Yep.
We tried the deal where we had 5 tournaments, one being the championship, and they could, drop one.
Yep.
But that didn't help our numbers. It helped a little bit with the travel, but it didn't really help with our numbers.
Right.
And so we scheduled our tournaments as best we could in the location of where closest to the biggest number of members. So we always had a tournament in the Texas, Louisiana area.
Yep.
At the time, we had one in the Tennessee, Kentucky area. We always tried to have one in the Alabama area.
Right.
Because those were where our biggest numbers were. Because Alabama, you could draw Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama. We didn't really have anybody in Mississippi, but it still, and it still wasn't a huge drive for a lot of folks other than those of us in Texas, which meant that, to go to Alabama, that for me, I was one of the furthest ones west. So for me, that's pulling a boat's 12-hour drive.
Oh yeah.
And then we try to go up into, at least every other year, we try to get one up in the Carolinas. So we go to North Carolina or South Carolina.
Yep.
Again, because we had a few folks in that area, and we wanted to try to give everybody a chance to get in. We were relatively consistent with the format of the regular season events. Family travel partners could be in the boat with you during practice.
Yep.
But they were under the same regulations. But when it came to the championship time, anglers only.
Yeah.
Because we had a cadre of folks who were like, they didn't want anybody in the boat but anglers. We had another cadre of folks who were like, it's my husband or my family's vacation time too.
Right.
And so, we try to come up with a balance of that.
Yep.
You can't make everybody happy, and it worked. It was okay. We cut down and started moving our tournaments to be on Thursday and Friday for a lot of different reasons. One was that Saturdays got so busy and so congested, and we had several close calls on Lake Hartwell.
Yeah.
One tournament. I forget if it was the first morning or the second morning, but we had a rookie boater, but she had an experienced boater in the boat with her, the experienced boater had boat problems, so she couldn't fish as a boater that year.
Right.
And it was, it was daylight, but it was also a really hot day because it was a July-August tournament.
Right.
And so they're scooting across the water, and about the time the experienced person saw it, so did the inexperienced co-angler or boater, and she throttled back. And a big striper boat went so close across the bow of her boat that waves came over the front of her boat.
Wow.
He had zero lights on, flying. Well, there were 4 boats right behind her. And as soon as they saw her shut down, they all shut down and split.
Right.
That would have been a massive, massive problem.
Right.
And, again, she was paying attention. She had an experienced boater with her, and they both saw it. And she, instead of, panicking, throttled down. And, it scared them all to death.
Oh, yeah.
Then whenever I was coming back, and you've got the Seneca and 2 or 3 other rivers that come together in this one area. And I'm watching, there's lots of boat traffic. And this one little boat, it probably shouldn't have had more than 3 people. It had 7 people in the boat.
Oh, jeez.
And they came out of nowhere from behind another boat. And if I hadn't been paying attention, I would have taken them all out.
Yep.
And it was like, holy cow, too many people in the boat and a very busy area. It's like, I'm an experienced boater, and I wanted nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
It just, and so it also allowed our anglers who went to church on Sunday, if we fished on Friday, they could get up Saturday morning, get home, and go to and spend the weekend with family.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They're going to be taking that time off work anyway.
Yep.
And then we started having off limits on Saturday before, which would allow folks who worked on Friday to drive in on Saturday, be able to practice Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Yep.
If they wanted to, Wednesday, tournament Thursday, Friday. We'd have our meetings on Wednesday. So we had a lot of things that we did, and we had reasons for them. Because it is an advantage for an angler or a group of anglers if they live in proximity of a lake, that even if it's 3 or 4 hours, or even for me, Toledo Bend, it's still 5 hours away from me.
Yep.
And, I know it's in Texas, but it's 5 hours away.
Right.
So I can't just hop up. It's easier for me to go 5 hours and practice versus somebody who's driving like Heather Broom 17 hours.
Right.
So, it also leveled it out by having that week before official practice started off limits so that everybody was kind of on a more even playing field.
Absolutely.
Um, so we didn't make rules just because we tried to have logic and reason for them.
Kind of a compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's great. I mean, Table Rock for me and Bull Shoals, they were both 6 to 8 hour drives, depending on traffic and that kind of stuff pulling the boat.
Right.
Those folks who live there, they could practice. They could be on there and practice for weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for them.
Yep.
But for them, that's a huge advantage.
Oh yeah.
To be able to hop up there every weekend, or to hey, I'm off on Friday. I'm going to go up there on Friday and practice. Out of the blue. I'm retired now, so I have the opportunity, but I don't have unlimited funds.
Right. Yeah.
So it's sometimes a little. It's, I don't know, disheartening or frustrating is the thing. It's just an awareness that there are folks who are getting more time on the water simply because they live closer to a lake.
Yeah.
And so, but you're going to have that regardless of who's running the tournament and what tournament trails and stuff.
Absolutely.
But those are some of the reasons that we did stuff. We cut it back to 4 tournaments, counting the classic. We had anglers who were like, I can't travel, but I still want to fish. So
yep.
we still had former clubs that were parts of the old Bass and Gals.
Yeah.
And so such as the Indiana Bass and Gals, the Dallas Bass and Gals, the Gateway Bass and Gals. So you still had some of those organizations around. So why not do something similar to what the WBFA and I think the previous one before that did, is allow them to qualify people locally to our championship.
Good idea.
If they're unable to travel, they're not going to fish with us anyway.
Right.
But if we can get them there for one tournament, maybe they'll pick up an extra tournament the next year.
Yep.
And then it also gives our cities, because we were smaller numbers for our championship, it also gave our cities a bigger boat number.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it balanced out. And, of course, the federations, as we call them, they had to pay an entry fee for the team to fish our championship, but it was just enough to cover our expenses. We needed to be able to cover because we kept out, on most cases, it was a 20/80.
Yep.
So kept out 20% for expenses, plus part of that money would go towards the championship, because our championships were entry fee free. It was free.
Right. Awesome.
So the federations paid what was equivalent to kind of what we would have held out throughout the year for everybody.
Right.
So that covered the banquet meal, that covered a shirt, it covered some other things that we would get, plus it covered any payout. And so again, the cities like that, because now instead of having 12 boats, we had 15 boats,
yep.
16, 17 boats, which is not huge, but it's still, we were told at Diamond City, Arkansas several years ago, because they were basically, they're a tourist town. They were shut down
yep.
for the season.
Yep.
And the mayor at that time was Jan Hudson, as she brought us in, and, they paid us X number of dollars. And the people who ran the resorts, who ran the hotels, the restaurants, and all that sort of, they reported back to us that when we were there for our championship, for those 3 tournament days plus 3 or 4 practice days, we brought in over $85,000 to their community.
Wow, that's huge.
So, we basically figured out and did some rough math. It was rough. It wasn't exact. But the boaters were there longer. That the boaters were spending about $1,200 to $1,500 per person for a tournament, and the co-anglers were about half that.
Yeah,
because they weren't always there the whole time.
Right.
And so, roughly though, that means that as a pair in a boat, you're bringing in $2,000 to $2,500 per boat to that community.
Plus families and friends that travel with them, so that adds up.
All those things. And so, but if we could count what we only counted what we could commit to and could prove. We know that we've got this number of boats. We know we've got this number of co-anglers. So when we would start talking to cities about what we needed to bring us there, we would give them the justifications.
Absolutely.
And so most of them were more than happy to have us there as a small group. It was something that was easy enough to manage, but it could make an impact. It's harder in
Yep.
the bigger cities because
Yep.
people can spread out so much.
Yep.
And the ladies were great about going to the folks who sponsored locally and utilizing them, whether that
Absolutely.
was, you know, Tommy Yetz at Rockwall Marine. He would help sponsor us when we were at Ray Hubbard. And so if the ladies had a breakdown, they would, call Tommy, boom. He'd have them over there. If he could get them in and out, he would.
Cool.
He was right there ready. There was a gentleman, I can't remember his name. He was a rescue service, and he donated his rescue service.
Huh.
And so if you had folks who ran up into the ditches, as they're called in the northern part of Ray Hubbard, if they got stuck because the water was too shallow, he'd go get them. Or there's a big sandbar out by the power plant. And if you don't know where it's at, you're going to get stuck on it.
Oh, yeah.
He volunteered his services, and so the ladies would utilize him for, anything they needed. So they were really good about staying at the host location if possible, spending money with the sponsors. Of course, we were right there at Bass Pro. And so, those guys were great. The ladies were going in there for tackle, clothing, whatever. And the city of Garland was great. So this is just an example of two cities, Diamond City and and the city of Garland, where, we know what we do. And then if you look at Lake Logan Martin, Les Robinson took over when they built the brand new boat ramp there.
Yep.
Well, we were part of the reason that brand new boat ramp got built, because when Robin was over Parks and Rec there at Lincoln, Alabama, she kept telling the city, if we want to compete with this other location on the lake, we have to have a park and a good ramp area that would accommodate up to 200 boats.
Yep.
And so one of our young ladies was actually going to school. She drew up the design for the park that they built there.
Oh, heck.
Now, the architects took her sketch out rendering, and they developed the park, and it's Lincoln Park.
That's
Lincoln
awesome.
And so we're a small group, but they still invite us back and pay us the same amount, because we also would do community service items.
Right.
At some of our items. And so the ladies would either bring canned goods or they would donate money, and we would go to the local Piggly Wiggly. And I think the last 2 or 3 years there, we averaged somewhere between $700 and $1,000 that the ladies would donate.
Wow.
And we would go to that local Piggly Wiggly store and buy them out of all the stuff that the food bank said they were in need of.
Right.
Of course, the Piggly Wiggly, look where all this money's going. It's going to a local grocery store.
Yep.
And the manager would in turn say, hey, let me throw these things in. And so, so we made a huge difference at those times doing some of those things.
Absolutely.
We would do, at one point we actually did these benefit tournaments. So we would fish on Thursday, Friday, and on Saturday would be an open benefit tournament for anybody that wanted to enter.
Right.
And all the money would go to a local organization. They'd still have payouts, but the money would go to whatever group it was.
Right.
And so those are some of the things we did early on. And even up until last year before last at Lincoln, I went with the ladies' money and we bought $800 worth of food for the food pantry. And the food pantry told us what they needed. They had a certain population. They said, here are some very specific things that we need. We need this particular kind of cracker that's packaged this way.
Yep.
Because they had a small homeless group.
Yeah.
And so they could do the Vienna sausage with the small packs of crackers, and they could feed those people for weeks with those little cans of Vienna sausage and stuff. So because we had communications with them, it was a really cool thing that we could go in and do to help support the community. And so
fill the need they need. Yeah. And fill the need they needed. That's great.
So not only the city was funding us to come, but in turn we were trying to do something to give back.
Right.
We didn't do it everywhere we went, but where especially where we had connections, we did that. And the ladies are so generous, amazingly generous.
Absolutely.
But I'm so excited about Travis and Craig and their families taking over this year. They are doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, they are. They put a lot of work, a lot of hard work in. I
They
know.
really are. I love a lot of the changes that they're doing. I'm now able to do some of my own videos. People are like, well, why didn't you do videos before? I don't know when I would have done them.
Yeah, exactly.
I was doing the website. I was doing the digital magazine. I was doing the registrations. I was doing the memberships. Secret was taking care of sending out all the membership packets. She worked a lot with sponsors,
Right.
you know, all these things. And so I taught myself how to do the Adobe suite
Yep.
so I could do our graphic design and stuff. And so I would get all the locals, the sponsors to send me their logos and so forth. And we would put those on the shirts and things. And fortunately for Travis and them this year, they've chosen not to do the shirts and things, but they've chosen to bring Abby in to do all the videos.
Yep.
And to help with all the live streaming and stuff. So you've got the drone that captures footage as we're taking off and the coming in and all those things.
That's awesome.
And she does an amazing job.
She is. She's good.
Travis has brought in these components where we can report our fish catches throughout the day, and people can kind of get an idea of, hey, how's the fishing going? Just to build up the anticipation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it's really, really a lot of cool things because Secret and I knew that we had taken it as far as we could.
Yeah.
It was going to be a rehash of the same things over and over and over because we didn't know what else to do.
Right, right.
And so it was either find someone to take over with fresh blood, fresh ideas, or fold it up.
Yep.
And those were the two choices that we had.
Yep.
And I can remember, I don't remember the exact date or whatever. I know it was well before our championship last year. Might have been early in the year. And she goes, Cheryl, we need to talk. And I said, yes, we do. She goes, well, what do you think? I said, I'm on board. And she goes, you didn't even let me finish my sentence. I said, I didn't have to. We're both tired. We're both done.
Yeah.
If you're done, I'm done. I'm good. And of course, we told the ladies at the very beginning of last year, and it caught them all off guard.
Yeah.
And there were folks that were very upset. They weren't upset with us. They were just heartbroken because it's a family.
Oh, yeah.
We've made friends throughout the years, and you've got a small cadre that have been here since the beginning.
Yep.
And it is, it's a family, like any family, not everybody gets along.
Yep.
But I can promise you that if I needed something, I could call any of the ladies and they would do it.
Absolutely.
And so forth. And the same here. I can remember going back to Logan Martin. I don't know why I wasn't on the water this day for some reason. And I don't know why. I don't know what it was. And I got a call from Pam Ridgel and Cindy Adler and said, hey, we need help. We've got a hook buried in Cindy's side. Right here, right below her ribs. And we've tried, we cannot get it out. Oh. So I met him at the boat ramp there at Carib, and it was a whopper plopper. And they had buried the treble hooks in her side, and they had gotten to the point where it was numb.
Yeah.
And so, we got everything set, and I pulled out my pair of pliers, and they're like, you're not going to use a string or a rope or anything like that? And I'm like, those things slip, and I end up hurting people.
Yeah.
And so, I got the pliers there, and I was looking at Cindy. I said, are you ready? And she goes, it's numb now. And if you take with the pliers and you roll your wrist like this, It automatically pushes down and it pulls out. And that's a natural position for us as humans. It's a natural thing, that or backhanded, either one.
Yep.
And it popped out, and they were like, it didn't even bleed.
You've done that before, I gather.
And we went when we were at Truman a couple of years ago. It might have been COVID year. There was this really, really big tournament going on the first day of practice for us. I bet there were well over 100 boats, and Truman was only 6 inches above its lowest level in history. But the wind was howling that day, and these guys were in a pocket, and we're idling by, and one guy has one arm and he's waving. The other guy's got both arms. He's waving. Can you help? Can you help? And he had buried a crankbait in his partner's arm, two hooks.
Yep.
And they were not able to get it out. And, again, I cut the split ring, got it to where it was just down to the hook, and popped it out. And he was like, I have never seen anybody do it so fast.
Yep.
Just once you've done it a couple of times, you get the deal. And it was buried. You could not. It was all the way up to the bend.
Oof.
And they were like, we don't want to have to go to the hospital. It's too long a drive. And just, because when you press down and you yank, it works. And my hands don't slip on the pliers. They do. If I use the string or the line, it slips. I just can't.
Oh yeah. It's funny. Cindy.
Time.
Yeah. Cindy Adler Jackson says, Riggle was afraid she was going to hurt me. Must be, yep.
Yeah. And so, but it was just, it's just something I've learned how to do, and it's come in handy. I actually have had to do it to my dog and to myself.
Dang.
And I took her fishing with me, and I was turning to put my crankbait down, and she reached up and nipped it, and it got her right here in the lip and went all the way through.
No.
All the way through. And I've got my trolling motor. I'm getting ready to roll up on the rocks. So I've grabbed the dog so she can't paw at and I've put my crankbait cover over the crankbait. I'm on my knees running the trolling motor to get it out where I can spot lock it to get me off the rocks. I clip the barb off and I'm backing it out, and she shakes her head and it sends it all the way through my hand.
Oh.
So I get it out of her and into me. And so I'm like, well, I have two choices. I can either suck it up and pull it out, or, so I did. I just did the same thing on me and popped it right out. Problem is, I can't surprise myself.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can't do one. You can't do 1, 2, and then jerk it. Yeah.
Of course, poor dog. She felt so bad. She went to the back deck and sat there and watched me.
Oh.
And I was like, I can't get off the water because then she'll be afraid.
Yeah.
Thanks, little brother. Appreciate it, little brother.
I fear you knew him.
So, I kept fishing. Next thing I know, she keeps creeping up to the front. Next thing I know, she's like got her head right between my legs, looking at me like, is it going to hurt me again, Mom? Yes, Lincoln Park is a great facility. It's absolutely phenomenal.
That's an amazing story. One of your ladies helped design it or had a big hand in it.
Christian Baxter gave the original. So when Christian originally designed that park, she had put in for a camping area.
Right.
Well, because of the funding and some other things, they were not able to put the camping in.
Right.
But if you're going into the boat ramps, just to the right, they were planning on putting in a bunch of tiny homes.
Oh, hey.
And there'd be a park next door where they were going to make a golf cart path so that they could run people back and forth over there.
Right.
It's just a phenomenal facility. And it's right on the river, so they can run it all year long. Hey, Die Hard, how are you?
That's my buddy, Jared. Yeah, that's my buddy, Jared. Hey, Jared, how's it going?
So, some great places to go and visit. And then, of course, we just got through with Bull Shoals earlier this year. And I will tell you, if you ever need to go someplace to get away that's quiet, that's absolutely gorgeous, you need to go to Anchor Point Resort. They're in Peel, Arkansas. You see deer all over the place. It's quiet. Wow. The water is just crystal clear. Derek at Highway 125 does a great job with the marina, but Jennifer and them, it's amazing what they do at the cabins and things. They have a phenomenal restaurant. It's only closed on Wednesdays, but they would open up and they would fix breakfast for us in the mornings.
Oh wow! Went the extra mile. Yeah, went the extra mile for you.
Or they would take an order for us and cook it the night before so we could put it in the microwaves.
Hey.
It's just, they had great food, great family, phenomenal place. They're remodeling and they're expanding. So if you really want to go, and hey, there's my little sister.
There may be several of us watching. It may be.
And so, that's kind of, where we're at now is that you've got Travis and Craig that are running the tour and doing a great job. trying to bring in some new blood and keep things going and get it to expand. And so combining that with what Travis does with the World Fishing Tour,
Yep.
Really is a pretty cool aspect. They run like a poker tournament. You got 5 or 6 qualifying days. You can pay an entry fee any one or all those days. And if you're in the top 25% on any of those days, you automatically qualify for the championship day, and you're guaranteed a check.
Man, can't beat that.
So it really is does. I got to fish one on Bull Shoals with Cindy Adler. It was an absolute blast.
Cool.
If I could have gotten 2 of the fish that I lost to the boat, I don't know that we would have qualified, but it'd been pretty close. Because
Exactly.
we already had one that won it, a young lady who won it, and so her day, so she qualified for one of the last tournaments. So it was pretty cool to get to go do that. That team fishing concept was good.
Can't beat that.
V. O'Neill's there from Alabama. She goes, the tiny homes are beautiful, and she loves Lincoln Landing. It's great.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, it's again, we're getting off on all these little side conversations, but it's just it is a family. That that's all that came from. Is that even not just the ladies, but the venues that we go to. I mean, I've got these people in my cell phone. I can pick up the phone and call any of them, and they'll know who I am, and I know who they are. It's not like I call somebody, and they welcome us with open arms.
Man, that's great.
So, we shared all that stuff with Travis and Craig, and they're utilizing some of those. They're also utilizing their connections to do stuff, and I'm excited that we've got Gunnersville coming up here, end of June. The grass should be up and matted by then. I'm hoping that fight is on fire.
Yeah, I love Gunnersville.
Yeah, so we're going out of a little different area. We're going out of Goose Pond Resort.
Yep.
It's going to be the host spot this time, and so that's a little bit more, I guess you say, downriver than
where a little bit. But they got a great little bait shop and a little restaurant right there at the launch. Great folks there. I've fished several Toyotas there. Great folks.
And so, I see it scrolling across the bottom now. And then, of course, I've never been to the Grand Lake of the Cherokees. So I'm excited about getting to go fish that in October. I was fortunate that when I won Toledo Bend, I could just go fish the Classic if I didn't want to do anything else. But right now, I'm 39 points behind Linda Gesner, and she's in first place for Angler of the Year, and I'm in second.
You're right there.
I've got Robbie 1 point behind me in third. Robbie Hartline. So, anybody's game. I can't remember who's behind those folks, but I just know what I have to do, this next tournament and so forth. And Linda's a great competitor.
Oh, absolutely.
She's a great competitor. She's a great angler. She may give off this very New Yorker, vibe, but I promise she would give you the shirt off her back, if you needed it. Now, come tournament day on the water, she's going to kick your butt all over the place if she can. She would do anything. Matter of fact, I had an eyelet that was off of one of my rods at Table Rock, and she took my rod on, I think it was Wednesday midday, or maybe it was Wednesday morning, and she put a new eyelet on it, put it on the turner, and had it ready for me to I could spool it up that night and be ready to use it the next day.
Man, can't beat that.
So all she charges is just whatever the materials cost her. So there are some really great competitors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I say, I see y'all, like, somebody has a boat problem, y'all help out any way you can. It's just amazing how everybody helps everybody there.
Yeah. I was fortunate that with the boat issues that I had at Table Rock, that we were short of co-anglers. So I was able to, for one tournament in the rules, I can fish as a co-angler and have my points still count towards the boater side.
That's awesome. That's a good idea.
So it was really designed more for the co-anglers, but it can go both ways. It was designed so that if a co-angler, let's say well, Cindy's, her local lake is Bull Shoals.
Right.
She's actually fished 2 tournaments as a boater. So, but if she, our Cassie Hall, Cassie Hall's a great example. Logan Martin is her home lake. But Cassie's like, I just can't, I can't get the time off. I can't dedicate all the things that I need to be able to go out and practice to be a boater. But she can do it on her home lake. So we don't want to penalize her for fishing as a boater and lose points on the co-angler side. So for that one tournament, she can fish as a boater, but her points still count towards the co-angler side.
Makes
so that
sense.
same counts for me as a boater, one tournament. So I got to fish as a co-angler. So I didn't end up getting knocked out of the tournament.
Right.
And my points counted on the boater side.
That's an awesome concept right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing too. You got some great rookies coming up, like the young Carly Joe. I mean, those ladies went from the first tournament to now. They've made a huge leap.
They have. And I want to compliment Lynette Fitz. Lynette travels with me. She's not going to get to go to Gunnersville. It's just at the extra tournament with the money is not going to work. She started fishing as a co-angler and decided after she retired, hey, I think I want to try this. Yep. And so I took her. She started traveling with me during the COVID year. And, learning just the basics. She got really fresh. I don't know if the order is correct, but, her very first tournament, we were on Pickwick Lake. And we did everything by random draw. And she drew Pam Ridgell on one day and Alyssa Johnson on another day. Of course, I already knew this, but I couldn't tell her because we weren't telling anybody who they were paired with till the meeting.
Right.
We got to the end of our last practice day, and I'm like, I need to show her how to throw a Carolina rig because I know how those 2 girls fish, and I don't think that her skill set is going to allow her to fish anything else. So we had a good 30-minute we had about a 30 to 45-minute lesson on how to do, if it was that long, how to do a Carolina rig.
Right.
And she ended up finishing 3rd using the Carolina behind those 2 girls. And they fished like vacuum cleaners.
Yep.
And so I'm like, but she did great. And so
that's awesome.
And so I was noticing the other day at Table Rock during practice, because you have to cast forward at Table Rock because you have to be so, for me, the way I was fishing, I had to be close to the shore and she wasn't going to have an angle if she didn't cast forward.
Yep.
And she's putting her baits in spots. She's getting good long casts. She's got control. She has just come such a long way in just 3 years. And she got a great compliment from Jan Hudson. She drew Jan Hudson on day 1. And I hope I don't butcher this compliment. But, Jan's fishing long, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, Lynette's got 3 fish in the boat. And, Jan's like, wow, this girl can fish. Because Jan, I don't either had 1 or didn't have any fish in the boat yet.
Wow.
And so, and her comment was, she is quite the little angler. And going back to the family part of this, there's several things that go along. Lynette's doing great. But Alyssa Johnson fishes a co-angler out of the back of the boat behind Pam Ridgell. Pam was her mentor. And now, they're both, neither one's getting to fish with us this year because of work and family and jobs and those kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
But, here you go. Alyssa has fished behind Pam for so long. And then she turns around and I think it was 2019, she won the Lady Bass Classic.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's an amazing story.
And so you got folks that we want to try to bring up and move up. And that's a story right there of how that can happen.
Absolutely.
That's improvement in her skills and her confidence level. And it's got to be frustrating at times fishing behind me in practice because I describe some of the ladies as vacuum cleaners, but I'm catching fish up there and it's like there's not a whole lot left to fish sometimes.
Right.
And then sometimes I have those really off days where I'm in practice and we struggle and we only get a couple of bites all day long.
Yep.
And so I know it's got to be frustrating to go through and spend all that time on the water and just get a few bites, but then turn around and get the compliment from someone like Jan about, she's quite the little angler and did so well. Had 3 really nice fish and was able to, I believe, cull that day.
Yeah, that's great.
You know,
That's hard to do. It. I love being a co-angler like I am. It's a lot mental game. Like your boater's whacking them, you say, "I'm not competing against him. I got my own fish." So you got to keep that kind of in your mind.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's tougher than people think.
So, and that again, I know that's not really on the deal of the history of the tour,
right?
But it goes with what we want to do. And so with Carly Joe, you brought her up and so forth. The biggest thing about the tour is that so many people just don't know that we exist.
Yeah.
And with all the things that are going on, you've got Cindy Adler, who is putting out a lot of video, great content. I'm trying to put out more and more. There's a couple of other folks that I believe are trying to put out more videos. Yep. And of course, with what Travis and them are doing with Abby, doing all the videos of the weigh-ins, the live streaming, the leaderboards throughout the day, just people hearing that the tour exists is going to help it to grow.
And I've noticed in the BFLs this year, I guess there's a lot of the high school and college ladies. I see a lot more ladies in the BFLs this year as co-anglers.
Right. Exactly. And the biggest thing that people are like, well, why let's see, does the ladies tour co-anglers have no, they have a 3 fish limit, Troy. And part of the reason that we did that is because, the boater works their tail end off to try to find fish.
Yep.
And they're going to go back to those same areas probably 2 days, maybe sometimes 3 days in a row. Well, if the co-angler is pulling 5 fish out, I'm running out of space. I'm running out of places to fish.
Yep.
And so we limit theirs. It also makes it a little bit harder for the co-anglers to be able to take off and just run away with it. Yeah. They have to be very consistent, and it's the luck of the draw.
Oh, yeah.
There was nothing wrong with what happened with Jen Nolan with me on day 1 at Table Rock. We were there. We could see fish. We weren't fishing slow enough. That's what it boiled down to.
It happens.
And she's a new boater. She's getting her new boats being outfitted there in Granbury, Texas. And so when she comes up to get it, we're going to go out on the water and do some stuff. So yeah, Troy, I agree. As a co-angler, liking that in the opens.
Yeah.
And so I've told her, I said, she goes, I need help with learning the electronics. And she goes, I can watch videos and people can tell me, but it doesn't help me. I need to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's me. I got to have hands on. Yeah.
She picks up her boat. We're going to go up to Lake Ray Roberts, if weather permits, and run her through the mill and let her get used to it. And, the hardest part for a first year or even sometimes a second year boater is, now the decisions are yours.
Oh, yeah.
Not only are you learning to run the boat in all these different conditions and so forth. And it's a challenge. We as boaters forget what it took for us to get there.
Absolutely. And decisions, leave an area, stay, that's $1 million question,
Well, and also just how to handle the boat in a variety of conditions, because
exactly.
most of us on a fun day of fishing don't go out when there are 3-foot swells.
No.
And so, but you get to a tournament and you don't have a choice.
Yep. And
sometimes sometimes that tournament is the learning process for that boater on how to handle their boat. And, it can be, I'm sure it can be unnerving. I know that in the WBT, I had a couple of boaters that it was like, I'm glad I have my life jacket on, but I wish I had seatbelts.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been there.
There were some little bit of jitters, and I know that I probably scared some folks my first couple of years as a boater. I can see the lady's face. I cannot think of her name. Donna Newberry. We were on my first or second year as a boater. We were on Old Hickory Lake in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep.
And they've got these big cruiser boats up there.
Oh yeah, big time. Oh yeah.
Met this boat, and I'm like, all of a sudden I realized I forgot about the waves because the boat had passed for so long ago.
Right.
Anna's over there. She's relaxed. And then I look up and it's like, oh, crap. We hit that. And I look over and I can see air under Donna's behind.
Oh, no.
And she landed so hard. It hurt her back.
Oh,
We had to go back and find some of her stuff in the lake. I felt horrible, but it was a
yeah,
deal of, I knew that the waves were there. I knew the boat was going to throw big waves, but they were so delayed that I
yeah,
forgot. I
yeah.
was so focused on where we were going, what I was going to do. And, she was in such pain. I mean, I felt
Oh man.
horrible. And I know that I got a reputation for being a horrible boat driver because of that. And I can't blame her.
Yeah.
It was a horrible mistake,
It
but
happens. It happens.
it happens. And so it's all part of growing the sport too, that you have to have grace with these co-anglers or these new boaters that they're learning.
Oh yeah.
And so, and they've got to develop the confidence.
Yeah, because I've run into on a couple BFLs, a couple new boaters. They said, "Well, where you check in at? How you do the boat check?" And I've been in so many BFLs, I had to kind of run them through, but it was good after that. Run through once. Oh, okay, this makes sense. So yeah, it's part of it.
And at least we don't have the old shotgun takeoffs.
Yeah.
Literal. Those were literal shotgun takeoffs.
Yeah, I've seen some scary takeoffs of some of those.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't want to be in a part of that. But
there's ladies who'll go, if it's going to be that rough, I may be boat number 3, but I'm going to take off, but I'm going to pull over to the side. Y'all can just keep going right on past me. Yep. And it's just knowing their limits. And sometimes you don't know what your limits are till you get in the situation.
Oh yeah. Or like I said, guy's got his boat and he's, this is easy. Till you hit the tournament takeoff and start hitting all them waves. And you come back in the afternoon, like I said, all the cruisers and the ski boats and all that. Well, just waves going everywhere.
Because we typically only fish on Thursday, Fridays. That helps with that. Because, the weekend is the busiest time.
Oh, yeah.
Bass anglers out there. And then you have all the pleasure boaters and the jet skiers and things. So it reduces some of that stress for those new boaters and for us as boaters. And now I'm not competing with 5 people for the spot that I've been working on for a week.
Yeah, that's true.
All basically, let's just tie our boats together because we're all fishing the same spot.
Or you got 2 high school tournaments going on at the same time. I've seen that happen too. So
yeah, and we ran into something like that at Table Rock. First day of practice, there was a high school tournament. And we got mixed answers on it, but one said 175 boats, one said 300 boats for 2 days. And it's like either way, there's lots of boats. It was just it was a trail everywhere you went around the lake.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So as far as where the tour is going, I think it's headed for some great things.
Absolutely.
And I can't compliment Secret York enough for the patience she had with me, because I know that there are times that I was very short with people.
Yep.
They would pick times to ask questions that, it's stressful enough to try to get everything organized. And it's not that I didn't want people questioning what we were doing, but it was the timing of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
When you were asking that, by the time they asked for it, it's like, this has already been done. I try to get as much done as I could before the tournament. And so, and I find myself now that I'm not fishing or I'm not running it, that I still have to have a lot of patience and so forth. And poor Lynette, sometimes, I don't have the patience that I should, and so forth, because she's still learning. And then, she's there to have fun, and I need to remember that's what it's all about, is having fun.
Absolutely. Well, since my buddy John ain't here, I'm gonna ask the most difficult question of the whole night. What is your favorite homemade cookie?
Snickerdoodle.
He'll love that. That.
There's no doubt. That's hands down.
Yep. That's right. Yep. But this is the time usually we'll let you kind of promote your sponsors or causes you're kind of part of. So this is your time to share whatever you'd like.
Well, I'm very blessed that I'm sponsored primarily by Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops. Kathy at the Cabela's and so forth, and the guys here, the folks at the Cabela's in Fort Worth, they do a great job. They help me out with all sorts of things. As a matter of fact, because my trolling motor's still down, they've got my boat in to get the service done. So it should be ready for me by the end of the week to have that, that annual service done on that.
Sweet.
Pantone lures, Gambler lures. I love my Costa sunglasses. I don't have them on. I can see them right over there on the counter right now. But I love my Costas. East Penn Deca batteries. Save Face. Let's see here. Who am I forgetting? Revital Outdoors.
Yep.
And then I'm on the board of an organization that's called 4-2 Forever Kids Fish. And, we have a National Day of Giving coming up pretty soon. And it would be phenomenal if you guys were to get out there and you were to help Albert. He goes all over the country and does free kid fishes.
Wow.
The cities help him out, and he provides every kid who fishes gets a shirt. They get a rod and a reel and a basic startup kit for fishing.
Awesome.
And it's all part of a nonprofit organization. And so I know that he's desperately trying to, it's hard. He's doing this. He's been working it for several years. But Albert does a great job. It's all under I believe the heading of Pond Hopper Nation, but it's the fishing part of it is now called 4-2 Forever, because we want to teach kids to fish as early as possible, as early as 4 years old, if not earlier, and so that they can fish forever, because it's something that you can do as a lifetime thing. And so Albert does a great job with that. And so if you are someone with the National Day of Giving coming up, I believe, when is that coming up? It's coming up pretty soon, because I'm supposed to be at Cabela's for an event on that. Let's see if I can find the date. June 6th.
June 6th. All right.
June 6th. So that's the National Donation Day, I believe is what it's called.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be at Cabela's out there for a promo on that, for some promo photos and things. But consider that 4-2 Forever with the kid fishing, so that he can get all these, get as many people and all these kiddos. I mean, it's great because you see families show up and you see parents. They don't even know the parts of a rod and reel or anything else, but they're there with the kids. We show them how to do it so that they can be there with their kids. We help them with taking the fish off the hook if they need to, talking to them about how they can do stuff. If you don't want to touch it, use a towel. Yep. You don't have to touch it. Grab it with a towel. Use a pair of pliers. You can't necessarily put the worm on the hook that way, but as far as touching the fish and getting the hook out of it, you don't have to touch the fish if you don't want to. There are lots of ways to do it.
Absolutely.
And it's really cool to see these families bond and to go, we really get to take this. I mean, he had to reschedule the one in Garland that he was doing, and I think there were 200 kids registered.
Wow.
And so he takes donation money. He goes and he buys the rods and reels from different Walmarts and things in places like that. And I think you may have a place to order them now online. And then the kids get to walk away with a free rod and reel and tackle. It's a great cause.
And makes a memory to last a lifetime on top of that.
It does. And so encourage you guys to do that. And then, like I say, if you're out there and you're looking to sponsor somebody, look at the Lady Bass Anglers Association.
Absolutely.
It's a great organization. It's a great place to be and to put your money.
Absolutely. And it's growing. It's growing day by day. Every tournament y'all growing, I can see it. So, but yeah, look for that cause on National Day of Giving, guys. That's a special cause for sure. That's something we need to focus on, because we got a bunch of young ones growing up that love to get a chance to go fishing and get some fishing stuff. So perfect cause.
It's nonprofit. It's a tax write-off.
Exactly. There you go. That's even twice better, as my uncle would say. Twice better. But well, Miss Cheryl, I'm happy and I'm just honored to have you on the show tonight and kind of go over kind of the history and kind of the backstory to LBAA. And I'm like you, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes and how much higher Travis and the boys takes it. It's really doing good.
And thank you guys for the opportunity. I know we're kind of over your 1 hour that you talked. I tend to be able to ramble and talk a lot. So
no, it's all good. It was a pleasure, and hope you win your never turn. Maybe you win Gunnersville, and I can interview you live on the weigh-in stage. That'd be pretty special.
That would be awesome. So,
but
I look forward to meeting in person and so forth. I'm looking forward. Terry Bowden is sending me some special little weedless shaky heads and weedless bladed jigs. I'm looking forward to trying those out and so forth, seeing what we can do with them.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck, and appreciate you having us on. And hopefully I see you in the winner's circle here next couple tournaments.
I'm going to give it my best shot. Thank you very much, Rob. Y'all take care.
All right. Thank you. All right. See you. All right. And, guys, that was Miss Cheryl Bowden. I said I don't think she had time to say it, but she was a two-time LBAA Classic winner, 2012 and 2016. Of course, she was the co-founder of LBAA. And like I said, June 20 and 21st, the ladies will be at Gunnersville. They will have a live feed for the weigh-in, so please tune in. And as always, you guys rock. Thank you for subscribing, and tune in tomorrow. And special shout out my buddy John. Hope you're feeling better, buddy. And check in with y'all tomorrow night. As I always say, peace out. Now if I get the thing go out right.